What's up everyone, Kaiser says now, welcome to my New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 17 review, reaction, whatever you want to call it. And we got some fire up on the background once again. Wrestle Kingdom is quick overall thoughts, great show, very enjoyable. Over the past year or two, my interest in New Japan has kind of started to go down. I haven't really been interested in as much as I used to be. And I'd only watch the big shows, I'd watch G1 finals and Dominion and stuff like that. But leading into the show, I was actually excited for mainly for Omega and Okada, or not Omega and Ospreay. Sorry, I have Okada on the screen. That's why I was thinking of Okada. But yeah, mainly for Omega and Ospreay. That match was where most of my hype came from. But yeah, overall, very good show. This did feel like, one of those old Wrestle Kingdoms that everyone used to talk about, pre-pandemic. And yeah, I feel like New Japan is finally getting back on track to where they were. And yeah, my interest in New Japan is back. Cannot wait for Dominion tomorrow to find out some of the directions. We have an idea of where some stuff's going to go. But yeah, excited to see what the rest of 2023 has in store for New Japan. So let's get into it. We'll start with the pre-show matches. Iowa and Oleg Boltin had a 3-minute exhibition match. It was Boltin's debut. On commentary, they're saying he was some collegiate or Olympic wrestler. He looked good, some good throws, suplexes and stuff. Not really much there to talk about. It was just, again, 3-minute exhibition. New Japan Rambo. The final four were Great-O-Khan, Shingo Takagi, Sho, and Toru Yano. They'll have a fatal four-way at New Year's Dash for the provisional King of Pro Wrestling 22 Championship. Again, just your fun, typical New Japan Rambo. No surprises, no legends this year, but it was a stacked lineup. TMDK had a good running in it. Hinare and Corbin's in the Empire looked good. And yeah, Shingo, Great-O-Khan, Sho, and Yano advance, and they'll have a match tomorrow. Given my predictions for this one, it is kind of hard. I'd like to see them do something with Sho. I was a big fan of him when he was in Roppongi 3K. He was actually my favourite out of the two. But since they broke up, they've put him in the House of Torture. He hasn't really done much. And yeah, I know I'd like to see him do something with Sho. Shingo, probably the biggest name, the most obvious. Of course, Yano has a history with KOPW, and I can see them putting it on O-Khan either way. As well. Yeah, as much as I like to do something with Sho, I feel like it doesn't I feel like he's the least likely to get it. Shingo probably would make the most sense, but considering something happens later on, and as you've seen on the screen, it's Shingo and Okada, so that obviously means Shingo called out Okada, which we'll get into more details. I feel like maybe they wouldn't put it on him, so let's just go Great-O-Khan. Yuji Nagata, Kojima, and Makabe defeated Fujinami, Suzuki, and Tiger Mask in the Antonio Inoki Memorial 6-man Battle Royal Battle Tag match. Again, this was just 6 legends in there in a tag team, or in a Memorial tag team match. Not really too special. Nagata, Kojima, and Makabe got the win in that one. Main show kicked off with Catch 2-2. TJP and Francisca Akira defending the championship successfully against Leo Rush and Yo. Leo Rush got busted open in this match. It looked bad. Hopefully he's okay. Catch 2-2 did retain in a very fun opener, high-paced, high-action, as you'd expect from the junior tag division. Kairi defeated Tam Nakano in 5 minutes. I wish this match got a bit more time, but I have, as much as they made the most of the 5 minutes they got. They had a good match in those 5 minutes. I wish they got a bit more time, but considering what happens afterwards, and considering why a lot of people were kind of tune into this show, it kind of makes sense in a way why they didn't give this a lot of time, and I'll kind of go into a bit more detail on that. Because, no, of course, Sasha Banks, one by the name of Mercedes Moné, debuts, calls out Kyrie, and sets up a match in February for the IWGP Women's Championship. Of course, Kyrie retaining with the elbow, and that sets up their match in February. And like, everyone knew beforehand Sasha was going to show up. Everyone knew like that she was going to debut, and the most likely thing for her to do was come out and challenge for this belt. So I feel like a lot of people, if they had went along, a lot of people would be like, okay, we all know this is just for Sasha to go up, so like, let's just get on. Like, I feel like there would have been people like that, you know, mainly people just tuning in for Sasha. But I still would have liked to see Kyrie and Tam get a bit more time. But again, for what they were given, they made it work and had a solid matchup in. And of course, then if Kyrie does retain against Sasha, you can always run back her and Tam and give them more time down the line. Bishamon, Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi defeated FTR for the tag team titles. Again, good tag team match here as expected with FTR and of course my boy Goto. And Yoshihashi, especially since he started teaming with Goto, has improved a lot. Again, kind of expected Goto and Yoshihashi to be FTR. Of course, FTR recently losing their AAA and Ring of Honor belts as well, so now they went from 3 titles to none. I see a lot of people saying, oh, they should go back to the Wii, and I think they're going to go back to the Wii when their AW contracts are up. I don't think so. I feel like they've said in the past, like, they enjoy doing like the independent stuff, and I can see them stepping away from TV for a bit and doing like independent stuff. Also, it doesn't make sense for them to go to the Wii for another reason. Dax Harwood recently started his podcast, which I believe was who replaced Regal's podcast because he went back. So I don't feel like he'd start a podcast, have like one and like go back so soon afterwards. But maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe we'll have to wait and see. But I am interested to see what is next for FTR now they have lost all their belts. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Ren Narita in a tournament final for the inaugural World Television Championship. Again, this was a solid match, nice, submission wrestling from Sabre, nice back and forth with Ren Narita. Narita looked very good in this matchup as well. He was able to, like, for someone so young, he was able to go toe to toe with Sabre. And after the match, Sabre joined TMDK, Shane Haste, Mikey Nichols. Of course, TM61, I believe they were in WWE. They're back in Japan, and it looks like Zack Sabre Jr. is joining their group. Probably going to end up being like the face of that group, the leader of that group. Interested to see what comes from that, and interested to see what comes from the television title and what they do with that. In kind of another predictable matchup, Tama Tonga defeated the Machine Gun Carla Anderson. Kind of a bit of a botch on the finish, where Tama went for a gun stun as Shinko beats Okada by count out. I don't have anything else set up for running. But yeah, Tama did defeat Carl Anderson again as expected because Machine Gun recently gone back to WWE. As you can see, this is like, I haven't got anyone on this save, so I can't even like run Kyrie and Sasha since that was the only other match that was made going forward. We'll just keep it. We'll just run Shinko and Okada again. So yeah, Tama defeated Carl Anderson to become new Never Openweight champion. Keiji Muto, Hiroshi Tanahashi and Showa Umino defeat Los Ingobernables de Japón, Tetsuya Naito, Sanada and Bushi. Since this was Great Muto's last match in New Japan, I'm kind of disappointed Sanada didn't bring back his Great Sanada gimmick he had in TNA, but it is what it is. Showa Umino ended up picking up the victory for that team on Bushi, and I put out on Twitter that it kind of shows a lot that on a team where you have the ace of New Japan, Hiroshi Tanahashi, you have the legend Keiji Muto in his last New Japan match, that they give the fall to Shota. It like kind of shows the belief that New Japan have in Shota, and that like he is going to be the future of New Japan. There is no doubt about it, and that just kind of backs up my point on that. Like, out of Tanahashi, out of Muto, he's the one that gets given the fall for the team, to like picks up the fall for the team. And yeah, it's a fun match. It's like, I'm a Keiji Muto fan. It's kind of sad to see him retire, but he's what, like in his 60s or something. So like, yeah, his career was going to have to come to an end eventually. And yeah. Before I move on, after this, I said this was the only match that was set up, but it wasn't. But again, I don't have one of the people involved downloaded. Kengo from the group from Pro Wrestling Noah invaded backstage during LIJ's press conference, and Keno made a challenge to Naito, and it's Kongo versus LIJ or something. They didn't show it on the show, they just kind of talked about it on commentary, and I was just seeing a bit of it on New Japan's Twitter. So it looks like we're getting LIJ versus Kongo, two great factions, and yes, could be a lot of good pairings that come from that. Hiromu Takahashi then defeated Taiji Ishimori, El Desperado, and Master Wato to become IWGP Heavyweight Champion. I did go with Hiromu in my predictions, and I'm a big Hiromu fan, so I'm happy to see him get the belt back. But I'm kind of disappointed they didn't pull the trigger on Master Wato. Master Wato by far was the standout in this matchup for me. He hit his finisher twice, once on Ishimori and once on Desperado. Both times the pin got broken up, and I bet on them so hard I thought they were going to actually pull the trigger on Wato. The crowd were behind Master Wato, and I'm not like the biggest Master Wato fan. I think he's okay, but his performance in that match made me think, okay, they should have pulled the trigger and put the belt on him. And yeah, the crowd in the Tokyo Dome, they seemed like they were ready for it as well. And now, beforehand, I would have said Hiromu was the right call, that's why I went with min predictions. But after seeing how that match went, I feel like it was a bit of a missed opportunity not pulling the trigger there on Wato. Kenny Omega defeated Will Ospreay to become the new IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. And this was fantastic. This match was my match of the night by a long shot. This might have overtaken Okada Omega 1 as my favourite match of all time. I absolutely love this. A lot of 6 spots. Kenny DDT'd Ospreay onto an exposed turnbuckle. He then dropped him face first onto that exposed turnbuckle. He did his double stomp through a table. There's a cheeky Nando's into the exposed turnbuckle. Yeah, a lot of work around that turnbuckle. But yeah, it's a very, very good match. Great match. I highly recommend checking this match out. As I said, match of the night, one of my favourite matches of all time. Might be my favourite match of all time, depending on how it holds up when you rewatch it. This was matches like this is why I love pro wrestling. It was perfection. Of course, Kenny getting the win with the One Wing Angel, which means he is the United States champion once again, which is interesting. I hope this means we see more of Kenny in Japan. I hope this means more of Kenny in Japan. I hope it's not just he gets the belt, defends it a couple of times on Dynamite and loses it at Forbidden Door 2. I hope this actually means we'll see Kenny go back and forth between AEW and New Japan, because I want to see more Kenny Omega New Japan Classics. Let him run it back with the likes of Ishii, maybe Kenny and Shingo. And I think Shingo might have came in just as Kenny was going, or at least he wasn't the top guy like he is now. There's a lot of cool stuff there that they could do. And yeah, of course Kenny got the win. Omega in the Tokyo Dome, he is another level. And yeah, him and Ospreay did not disappoint. And then, like, it was kind of hard for Okada and Jay White to follow that, but if anyone could, it was Kazuchika Okada. And yeah, it wasn't as good as Ospreay and Omega, but it was still a great match, good main event. You know, it did kind of take a while to kind of get invested after what we had just seen and after the great match that we had just seen. But I feel like that's one of the strengths of Okada is a lot of the time his matches start slow and they build up, and then high, fast paced the last 10, 15 minutes. And like once Okada gets into that second gear, like he's great. He's one of my favorites of all time. Jay White very good as well. And yeah, Okada, the Rainmaker, regains the championship with the Rainmaker. You know, they had a nice sequence where they would trade, you know. Okada would hit a Rainmaker, Jay would counter it into a Blade Runner, and like Jay would go for a Blade Runner, get countered into the Rainmaker, then you know Jay would go for a Rainmaker, get countered into a Blade Runner from Okada. You know, there's just nice back and forth sequences like that, and yeah, Okada once again main event of Wrestle Kingdom, putting on a great show and regaining the championship. I even tweeted out Okada delivering in the main event to win the belt, and Omega putting on classics. New Japan, it truly is back, and it does feel like that way. I haven't been this hyped and this excited about New Japan in a good 3-4 years, and I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow at Dash going forward. And as I mentioned earlier, and as you see, Shingo Takagi did step up, did call out Okada, and they will be having a match in February sometime, I think it will be. So yeah, we have that to look forward to. Shingo and Okada probably tear the house down again. So yeah, let's see what happens with New Japan going forward from New Year's Dash. If you did enjoy this video, leave a like, comment and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.